and welcome back to the Hot Lap as we talk about the Singapore Grand Prix this coming weekend. We need answers. Can Lando Norris realistically mount a title challenge? Will McLaren remain on top? Can Ferrari fight back? And what will be happening to Red Bull? And how worried should Verstappen be, at least about the Drivers' Championship? So welcome Singapore. Let's then have a look at the times for the weekend. So as you know, the 20th of September, which is a Friday, practice 1 and 2 at 9:30 and 1 o'clock starting for an hour respectively. Practice 3 starts on Saturday the 21st, 9:30 to 10:30. Then we've got qualifying between 1 and 2 o'clock, with the race on the Sunday the 22nd starting at the slightly earlier time, for some people, at 12 o'clock. When we go track time, though, does not work. So let's ignore the track time, shall we? But let's go from track time to talking about the actual track, talking about the Singapore Grand Prix track. So it is a street circuit, but over the last couple of years, there have been some changes. There was a significant change last year. And there's an equally, almost significant one this year. This is this is meant to be the 2024 track, but as you can see, it's most certainly not. But the big difference, this is from 2023. You got turn 14 here, as you can see. I'm trying to point at turn 14. Then it goes all the way in sector 3 to turn 16. That will now, in 2024, that's just been decided that is going to be a DRS. Yeah, so making not 3, which is kind of one. There's going to be 4 DRS sections there in total, which I think is quite interesting. So let's get into the track there, shall we? Let's get on board the Singapore Grand Prix. As you can see, we're coming around the last corner. I'm going to pause it. You'll be able to hear me. I'm going to magically disappear. Magic. Great, isn't it? So let's continue then down the start-finish straight into, you do see overtaking in this kind of like, left-right sort of chicaney first corner. And you do see a lot of side-by-side, particularly on turn 1, maybe after the safety car as well. Now, this next corner coming up is really, really important. It's the first of our DRS zones, essentially, and we punch it all the way down there. And it's a fairly long straight, and it brings us from the first sector into the second sector. Yes, we do see passes in here, in this left-hander. Now, it kind of is, most of the time, going to be one at a time. As we now go through the, essentially, the middle sector, which is sector 2. This at the end of this straight used to be the Singapore Sling, that horrible chicane, if I remember, but no, not anymore. Now, as we are getting ready to go over the bridge. Once again, really important that you get your braking right, because now we've got our second DRS zone as we punch it. And yes, once again, we've seen crashes at the end of here. We have seen overtaking here, but it always feels it's a bit shorter. Now, as you can see here, we are in the new section, which is basically just a bit of a turn straight. And this is the next DRS zone. The third DRS zone now, as we come towards the end of the lap. You really need to get this last corner right. It's really, really fast. Turn that into the fourth and final DRS zone. So that is basically that is the Singapore Grand Prix track. I hope you enjoyed it. A roller coaster ride. I prefer. This is one of my more favourite street tracks. I don't know how much nostalgia it's gonna brings into it, but I really like it. So in terms of the tracks, and in terms of the stats, as you may know, it first joined the calendar in 2008 as the sport's first ever night race. Yes, and it's 4.9 kilometres. The race length is 306.143 kilometres to be exact. It has 63 laps, 19 turns. The circuit was first opened in 2008, and it was first visited there. Holding the first F1 race. 14 races held so far. A track record in 2023. That's because of the new layout. A 130.984 by Carlos Sainz. Lap record 135.867 by Lewis Hamilton. Now, there have been 14 race winners so far in Marina Bay. Since 14 F1 races, sorry, not 14 race winners. And for the 14 previous Grand Prix, my apologies, there's been six winners. Vettel, funnily enough, holds the record for the most Singapore Grand Prix wins. Yeah, Lewis Hamilton sits one behind with 4. Vettel has 5. Then we've got Fernando Alonso, Rosberg, Perez, Carlos Sainz are the only other drivers to take victory here. Yet most notable, a Max Verstappen ? This was the one track that Red Bull did not win last year, and we'll get into that. So Sergio Perez and Carlos Sainz are the only non-world champions to have won at the track, though Rosberg hadn't yet been crowned champion when he won in 2016. We've got Vettel and Hamilton are the only drivers to win back-to-back races there, and Carlos Sainz win in the 2023 Grand Prix marked the first time there'd been a streak of 4 different winners at the track. So, so Sergio Perez, Carlos Sainz. So 2 Grand Slams have been recorded there. Alonso did it in 2010. Vettel in, surprise, 2013. 3 teams are tied for the most victories. Mercedes, Red Bull and Ferrari are tied for the most wins in Singapore with 4 apiece. But Mercedes engines have achieved 5 victories there. I believe Hamilton won in 2009 for McLaren Mercedes. Now in 2019, Ferrari became the first ever team. It took till 2019 to record a 1-2 finish at Singapore. Red Bull and Mercedes share the record for the most consecutive wins. Red Bull dominating between 2011 and 2013, and Mercedes taking 3 in a row between 2016 and 2018. So the 2010 Singapore Grand Prix was decided by less than 0.3 seconds. The largest winning margin, though, was in 2013. Vettel won by 32.6. And in 2010, it was Fernando Alonso winning it. Only 2 races at the circuit have been won by a margin of more than 10 seconds. There have been 9 occasions where the Singapore Grand Prix has been won by less than 5 seconds, including 7 times in the past 8 races. Could you imagine that? Wow. Just wow. So, that's basically our track guide. But let's have a look at what's coming up at the Singapore Grand Prix in terms of the drivers. Who is going to do what? Who is going to do well? But before we do that, I would very much like us to a quick reminder of that, at least the top 10 of the Drivers' Championship. And as you can see here, we have Verstappen and Norris. Yes, Norris did take a few points. He's a bit closer than Leclerc, Piastri, Sainz, Hamilton, Russell, Perez, Alonso and Stroll. Yeah, so not bad. In terms, since I've got you, of teams having different liveries, here is a really nice livery for the RB. Interestingly, the Red Bull are not going to have a different special livery for Singapore, simply because of weight. Yeah, they don't want a car to weigh too much, which kind of makes you think they're worried, aren't they? They're concerned. And here is the render, I think, of the Visa Cash App. I think it looks quite nice. They've got this whole jeans thing going on there. Now, when we look at the Mercedes, this is a preview of what the Mercedes is potentially going to look like with 50 years. They're celebrating 50 years with Patronus. Lovely. Well, there we go. And if you want to completely have a look at it and watch it, it's very much going to be this one here. Here the renders. I think it looks quite cool. Looks, different. It essentially replaces the silver livery that they've got there. So celebrating 50 years with Patronus. And hey, absolutely, why not? So let's get into the drivers and all the stories coming into the Singapore Grand Prix. And let's talk about, we know Oliver Bauerman's not going to be there, but this man's going to be here, isn't he? Kevin Magnuson, because I can't spell. Now, the thing that scares me about Kevin Magnuson, he comes into the Singapore Grand Prix with no naughty boy points. That means, also, he's not going to be racing next year. He can unleash his naughtiness at the Singapore Grand Prix, and possibly, is anyone going to get 12 points in one race? Most probably not. But this is what scares me. It's going to be Kevin Magnuson unleashed at Singapore. So Hülkenberg, he's kind of got a point to prove in a way, hasn't he? Simply because he wasn't trounced, but he was beaten by Ollie Behrman the first time in the Haas, and qualifying he looked really, really good. Yes, Ollie Behrman had the whoops at daisy in FP3, but still. So I kind of think he's got a point to prove, to the point that he's going to have to beat Kevin Magnuson, but he's going to be, I think, He's gonna want to have a really, really good race. And, well, as I keep saying this, Sauber, Zhao Guanyu, possibly no drive next year. Once again, it's like a stuck record. I do apologise. Yeah, Zhao Guanyu. Oh, Zhao. So, but Bottas, I mean, I really think he deserves a drive. He's driving a lot better than a lot of people give him credit for in what is an absolutely rubbish car. But they're going to need a really crazy race. There are potential thunderstorms around the weekend, but as we know, the weather can change so quickly. So we're going to have to talk about that probably near the time. Now, there are rumours that this could be Daniel Ricciardo's last race in Singapore. There was a news story about Liam Lawson saying, "Oh, he's really happy. He's over the moon." And the rumor, it's a rumor. You know, we all need to stay calm. The rumor is that Liam Lawson's going to take his place. Now, if that happens, that'll be very sad. But if that happens, for me, that would be the biggest. Because Red Bull essentially run the team, don't they? They run RB. That's going to be the biggest hypocrisy. Why on earth are you getting rid of Daniel Ricciardo when you did not get rid of Sergio Perez? What the heck? Red Bull. Joke, in my opinion. If they do that. Do that for next year, I can understand. But do that halfway through, joke. What a joke. So, Yuki Tsunoda. I mean, we all know Yuki Tsunoda's fairly safe. And he was looking okay. He kind of, made Ricciardo not look silly, but he beat Ricciardo, which he needs to do. And Daniel I think Daniel needs to win. I don't think it's going to happen though, the Grand Prix. But yeah, Tsunoda, I think they could do a solid job here. But let's get into Williams, and let's get into Franco Colapinto, the man that scored for Williams in his second Grand Prix. Absolutely fantastic. What a result for Williams. They are now ahead of Alpine in the championship. And I could not be happier for both Colapinto and Albon. Now, Colapinto, I think within 2 races, he justified the moving aside, let's say, of Logan Sargent. It was sad. Yes, it was a bit depressing. I felt quite bad for Logan Sargent, but completely understand it. And I know it probably wasn't an easy decision for James Vowles, but you can't say that Logan didn't have the chance. They gave him a chance. They gave him another contract for this year. And it just wasn't happening, was it? It just did not happen. So, sad times ahead. So, Esteban Ocon, as we know, he's got to be kind of happy, I think. Having Bearman as a teammate is not going to be easy. As we know, Ocon and teammates get on like a house on fire. Yes, there will be fire. But he's going to want, I think, like Gasly, both of them are going to want a strong end to the season. Yes, we know they don't like each other very much, but I can't help but feel that they're going to want to beat each other. So it could be interesting. Could be a street track. And remember, one of the last street tracks we had, which had its tight moments, let's say, Monaco. Yeah, that didn't go down too well, did it? Didn't go down too well. We have here Lance Stroll, who races in his dad's car. So let's talk about Fernando. Let's talk about Fernando Alonso. Where have you gone, Fernando? Fernando Alonso, really, really solid drive, I think, for 6th. Yes, they kind of lucked in a bit, but I think you couldn't have asked anything more from Fernando. And he has won Singapore before, with a little bit of help in 2008 from Piquet Jr. But that aside, I think he could have a solid weekend. And I wonder whether the results last time out gave him renewed enthusiasm, like Samson, growing his hair again if he could. Has Adrian Newey given Fernando Alonso the aquavita of enthusiasm for getting a decent result? Let's hope so. Next up, we've got this man. We had this man here. There we go. Oscar Piastri. Everyone's talking about him. What is he going to do? Is he going to show up Lando Norris? But I know Lando Norris, that yellow flag thing, not particularly great. And I've no doubt he would have got into Q3. But Oscar Piastri did. And it's really interesting. The pressure's on. But when you look at the championship, I still think McLaren are going to be behind Lando Norris. But if they're quite far apart, Oscar Piastri leading, and they're not going to ask him to stop, are they? If there's 3 or 4 drivers between them. And that's it. And that, again, I can't help it, but that's exactly what Lando Norris needs to do. He needs to make sure he is ahead of Oscar Piastri. He needs to make sure he's better than Oscar Piastri and give McLaren absolutely no reason. So I think after a solid result in Baku, Azerbaijan, where he came back to beat Max Verstappen from 15th to finish in 4th, just off the podium. Once again, though, Lando Norris, I think, has something to prove. That was a championship-worthy drive, I think, at Singapore. Yes, 2 people ended up going out, but by then he had still got ahead of Max Verstappen, which was significant. So, very, very, I mean, all eyes are going to be on Lando Norris. The pressure is going to be on, and I'm not saying he needs a victory, but he needs significant points over Max Verstappen, and he needs to beat his teammate Oscar Piastri. Otherwise, that's most certainly going to get people talking. Now, Carlos Sainz, the last guy to win the Singapore Grand Prix, the man that broke the Red Bull's duck of a really, unless you're a Red Bull Max Verstappen's fan, kind of a boring season. Compared to this, fantastic season, excellent races. This is brilliant. And yeah, Carlos Sainz, can he? I mean, he's going to really, really want to be beating this man here, his teammate Charles Leclerc. I think both of them go in as I wouldn't put a paper in between them. Charles Leclerc is currently the on-form driver, but he's inconsistent. That's the thing. In practice, how many times did he make mistakes in practice in Baku? Thank goodness he didn't do it for the race. But it makes me tiny bit fearful. Makes me wonder. So we've got George Russell now, obviously in his newly liveried Mercedes. Once again, I imagine he'll probably out-qualify Lewis Hamilton, maybe out-racing because it is hard to pass. That's going to be the big thing, is the Mercedes, and in particular, a lot of people are talking about Lewis Hamilton and the difficulty he has with the grip of the track. On the low grip track, he's really, really good. Compared to George, but when the track grips up, it seems the car feels different to him, and for whatever reason, it's frustrating. I think come the race though, he's faster than George. It's just qualifying. So the big question is, can Mercedes challenge? I think yes they can, but the caveat to that, and the big if, is going to be they need to get the setup perfect. They need to get the setup perfect. And if they do that, like in Belgium, for example, they have a very good chance. They've got a very good chance of winning. So Sergio Perez, I mean, we all spoke about his whoops-a-daisy with Carlos Sainz, a race incident, the steward said. Kind of inclined to agree, to the point where both of them, you can make a very good argument, both of them it could have been avoided. I mean, Carlos did go off, he was taking the racing line. But then he must have known Sergio Perez was there, but Sergio Perez must have known, okay, all he had to do is move a tiny bit. And to be fair, the way that Sergio Perez had momentum, he would have taken the corner anyway. At least been ahead of the apex of that next corner, in my humble opinion. But Sergio Perez, as much as he wants to blame Carlos Sainz, he kind of has to half look in the mirror and blame himself for the reason they got no points, and also with McLaren finishing now 20 points ahead in the constructors compared to Red Bull. And once again, as I said, if they get rid of Danny Ricciardo after Singapore, why didn't they get rid of this guy? And that's what winds me up, and it just smells of hypocrisy there. But if they had got rid of Perez and Daniel Ricciardo, which I don't think they would have done, both of them, but then I kind of would have understood that a bit more. Once again, just rumours that Daniel Ricciardo is going to be dropped for Liam Lawson after Singapore. When I say rumours, I mean we're talking not a pinch of salt, a whole bucket of salt with that rumour. Put on your tin-foil hats, conspiracy theorists, stand up kind of rumours. Anyway, I digress. Let's get off that and let's talk about this man here, the man that is under pressure to do well. Now, it's always easy being the hunter rather than being the hunted, because as the hunted, you kind of have nothing to lose. Where Max Verstappen does, one wheel in the wall, gone. Lando Norris wins. That's 25 points. So he is under pressure. His team is under pressure, and it's at a time when the Red Bull car is not particularly good, and that's going to be the massive concern for both Red Bull and Max Verstappen, with a massive exclamation mark. Not good at all. Can they get it right? And this is the issue. They didn't. This is that dominant 2023 car. This is the one circuit that Red Bull was struggling at last year, to the point where Liam Lawson out-qualified Max Verstappen. Imagine that. It's just, it's not good, is it? Going into the weekend. Can Red Bull sort it? Yes. Do they have fantastic people working there? Yes. Do they have a really solid driver in Max? Yes, as we know. He can drive around problems, but only so much. The car is really important, as we've seen this year with Max, as we've seen in previous years with Lewis Hamilton in the 22 Mercedes. No matter how good you are, you're not going to win in a bad car. It's a fact. You can maybe do better than other people would have done, but if that car is genuinely a bad car, or you've got a really bad setup, it's not happening, is it? So fingers crossed very much for Max Verstappen. So that pretty much finishes our Singapore Grand Prix preview. I hope you enjoyed it. If you would like to see more, please give us a subscribe. That would make me very, very happy. If you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. If you are subscribed, but you missed some of our videos, hit that notification button. That would be great, so you don't miss a video. No doubt we'll be doing other F1 videos. We'll be talking about qualifying as well. And I'll be missing the race, funnily enough, because we're off to Silverstone to watch the BTCC. So catch up after this video gets uploaded. There'll be a BTCC preview at some point as well. And breathe. We'll speak to you soon. I'm looking forward to it. Who's going to win the race? I have absolutely no idea. I imagine McLaren are going to be strong. Ferrari are going to be strong. Mercedes and Red Bull, no, we'll have to see what they could. I mean, we could have a 8-way fight for the Singapore Grand Prix come the start of qualifying. Amazing. Speak to you soon and stay safe.